Hello, good afternoon. Hope you are all awake now because we have a pretty cool talk here. We have Sergio Durigan Jr. here with us. He works at Canonical. He has been a GDB developer for more than 10 years previously, and if he receives a bug in Debian about toolchain, probably he's the one feeling it. Or some other people that are in this room. But he's going to talk about a plan to support source code indexing on debuginfod.d.n, which he maintains for both Ubuntu and Debian. So let's welcome him.
Thank you. I think this is the first time in Debian history that two Sergios are on stage. So that's good. Thank you. Right. Thanks for attending the talk. I think this is the biggest audience that I've had so far about debuginfod.d.n, and I'm happy because this is like something that I'd like to discuss with the broad community. And yeah, let's see how it goes. So, what is debuginfod.d.n? So I'll just recap a few things about the service for those who don't know. And this is, if you have watched any of my previous presentations on debuginfod.d.n, this is pretty much like this. First 2 or 3 slides are pretty much the same. So stay with me because we're going to get into interesting bits later. So the project was started by Red Hat in 2019. I was a Red Hat employee at the time. I was not directly involved with the project, but I remember seeing and witnessing lots of internal discussions about, hey, we got to have this, we got to have a service to provide and serve debug info over the internet. And 2019 was a year that the project was finally started. According to the project's documentation, it is a client/server that automatically distributes ELF, dwarf source code from servers to clients, such as debuggers across HTTP. So that part is, okay, like just a ELF, dwarf source code. In our case, for Debian, only the dwarf part applies. And I want to make the source code part also apply. So I'm going to explain later how I plan to do that. The goal here is to replace the need for dbgsim files. Replace may be a stronger word than I should use here, maybe, because dbgsim files are not going away per se, but they are going to be less needed by users. Like the users are going to transparently use debug info by using debuginfod.d.n instead of having to apt install a dbgsim file before debugging things. So that's, I think that's the catch of the service, and that's the elevator pitch of it. But it can do more than that, right? So that's what this presentation is all about, doing more than like serving debug symbols. So how does it work in a superficial manner? Of course, I'm not going to cover like technical details, at least in this part, but there's a debuginfod.d server, which in our case lives in debuginfod.d.debian.net. So it's still not an official Debian service, but I hope that that's going to change in the near future. I've been talking to Hector about it, and I know that the DSA is open to managing the service, and that would be great, because when we tell people like, hey, please, can you enable this service to obtain better debug info, and they see .net instead of .org, they correctly question, hey, is this an official thing? Like, should I really put this in my system? Or so yeah, having a .org there would help with that. This service indexes all available Debian releases. So anything that is published in the mirror in the debug mirror is indexed by the service. I consciously don't index anything in contrib or non-free. Well, you know, I think it's one of those cases in Debian that like the person who really does the thing decides on what's going to do. So I decided not to support those specific distributions in Debian because I don't want to promote proprietary things, and I believe like, okay, let's just stick to main. But yeah, debugger-like tools, and I'm going to talk a lot about GDB here for a couple of reasons. The first one, as Charles said, I am a GDB developer. I have been a GDB developer for more than 10 years now, so I'm very familiar with the tool. But GDB is not the only tool that can consume debug info from debuginfod. Another very famous tool is perf. So there was a talk about perf here a couple of days ago. And there are other tools like Valgrind can consume information from it. And that's, I mean, the ecosystem of tools that can actually use this is growing more and more. So the tool links against libdebuginfod, and libdebuginfod is the part that, you know, just provides the support for this download. So, funny fact, I tried to help co-maintain curl in Debian with Samuel and Charles, and libdebuginfod uses libcurl behind the scenes to download things. So that's a good thing there. When the tool you're using needs a debug info, it basically asks libdebuginfod to, you know, contact the server if there's a server configured to be contacted, and ask for a specific build ID. And the build ID is a hash that is generated for every object that is compiled. So if you think like binaries or shared libraries, each one of them is going to have a build ID. And because they're hashes, they're unique. So that's how debuginfod on the server side can index everything in Debian and quickly serve debug info associated with a specific build ID. So that's basically how it goes. If the server, of course, if the server finds the debuginfod that's being requested, it will transmit it over to the client. How do you use it? It's just a matter of exporting this variable in your environment, and that's all you have to do. Debuginfod underscore URLs, and put the address of the server. So debuginfod has a very cool design that is federated. So you can configure debuginfod server to actually consult other debuginfod servers if the build ID being requested is not found. So that's really awesome, and it means like you can actually have your own debuginfod server in your own infrastructure, for example. If you have like proprietary files that you don't want to share with the world, you configure your own debuginfod server, and you index those files, but you also make that server query other upstream servers. So your users only have to configure, like, to use your server, and behind the scenes, it's gonna check everywhere for the build IDs. So that's a nice feature. And debuginfod can also index, as I said, I've been saying, index and serve source code. And it is an amazing feature. And now is the time for things to go awry and to explode on me, because I'm going to do a live demo. And I talked to a friend yesterday who told me, oh, maybe you should record or have a pre-recorded version of this. Do I have one? No. Let's see how it goes. So here I have my debuginfod server. It's a local one running in a container on this machine. And it's indexing one specific package that I hacked the build system to make things work in a way that it can also serve source code. So this is what I want to see in Debian, and it doesn't exist now. So what I'm going to show you is a proof of concept, but this is like my ideal, like long-term goal or short-term goal maybe for Debian. So this part is the debuginfod.d server. Like it's just spitting out a lot of information, logs and stuff. Not interesting for us right now. And this part is the client. So what I'm using as an example is a package called Snack2. I'm also the maintainer of this package. And I just chose it because it's a very small and simple C program, so it's easy to compile, hack, and just try things out. There's nothing to it, okay? Just don't mind the actual package or binary or program. Just pay attention to how GDB works behind the scenes. So I have my debuginfod.d URLs variable set to query the server that I have running in the other container. I'm going to unset it for now because I don't want to use any debuginfod.d, and I'll just fire GDB using -q, which means like be quiet and don't like spit out a lot of information that's useless. And you're going to see like the famous no debugging symbols found because, of course, I don't have debuginfod.d and I don't have the dbgsim file installed for this package. Now, I'm not going to install anything else. Okay, this package, I don't have the source code for it. I don't have anything else, just the binary here, which is usually what the user has in their machines. Like they don't install the debug symbols or they don't apt source everything because, of course, reasons, right? So if I try to start the program here, you're going to see like, hey, there's no function main. And that's because like there's no debug symbols. GDB can't figure out where the function main is defined in the binary in order to put a breakpoint in it. So it asks me, well, you know, maybe this function is present in a shared library that hasn't been loaded yet. Would you like me to put a future, like a breakpoint that is not actually associated with an address, and then when shared libraries are being loaded, every time I consult to check if there's a function main in them? And I'll say yes, just for the sake of it, but of course this is not going to work. And this is the help output from Snack, from the binary, which means that the function main has actually been hit, like it's been executed. But GDB wasn't able to put a breakpoint in it, wasn't able to stop, and you know, you're basically like, okay, what do I do now? You can either install the dbgsim package, which is not what I want users to do now anymore, or you can, let me just, okay. Or you can use a debuginfod.d server. And now, if you try to open, GDB will currently say, hey, this is for like security and privacy reasons. GDB will not blindly trust the environment variable. It will just, oh yeah, there's something here. Would you like me to use this debuginfod.d server? You can, of course, you can configure GDB to automatically go and use it, but let's manually say yes. And now it does its magic. Now you see like GDB downloads the debuginfod for the program and reads the symbols from where it downloaded the debuginfo. And now I can actually start the program. And when I start the program, you're already going to see something very interesting that doesn't happen in Debian right now, which is you're going to see an excerpt of the code, of the source code in the screen. Even though I don't have the source code downloaded for this guy here. Right. Okay. Let me explain what happened here. So, debuginfod.d downloaded separate debugging infos for every one of these libraries. That is already very cool, because if you were using, like, if you were installing dbgsims by hand, you would have to do this like for each one, or you can also, there's a script to do that automatically for you, but it's still very like a manual process. GDB already does that for you. Okay, so debug symbols for everything is downloaded, and if you see here, I don't know if you can see, but there's a open curl brace here, and that means like this is the source code. Now, I'm going to do something, like, I don't know how many of you use GDB on a day-to-day basis, or that was my life for 10 years. So I had to learn how to use this tool in a productive way. And this is something that not everybody knows, but GDB has a text user interface. It has a curses interface that you can activate with Ctrl X and then A. So if you do that, you will see the source code here. And this source code came from debuginfod.d. The source code came over the wire, and debuginfod.d saved it locally, and GDB knows how to load it. So I don't have the source code for this guy installed anywhere in my system, but I can still see it. And that means I can, next step, whatever you want. Increase a bit? Yeah, sure. Yes. Yes. He asked if these things are cached, and they are, yes. So I'm going to exit GDB now to show you a little bit of a... you can see like the cache here. There's the debugging.d client here. And these are the build IDs for everything that was downloaded. So inside these directories, you can find the debug info and source code, if there's any. The only source code you're going to find in this directory right now is the one for the program I'm showing you guys. Because the other build IDs, the other debug info, came from debuginfod.d.debian.net, which doesn't serve source code yet. Okay, so yeah. Back to the presentation, because I don't know how many times I'll take for the rest. So we don't have such a feature in Debian yet, okay? But other distros do. So Debian is and has been lagging behind almost every distro out there for 4 or 5 years now. So Fedora has a complete, like, it's completely set up so that, like, I think it has the state of the art in terms of how debuginfod.d interacts with the tools and everything, like, plays out together. So they have like source code index for everything, and it just works, and that's amazing. Ubuntu, and I don't know, I don't remember if Charles said, but I also maintain debuginfod.d in Ubuntu, and we have partial support for this. I'm going to explain a little bit later. Arch GNU Linux has partial support. They don't have full support yet, but like everybody has some kind of support. We don't have any. So why can't we have nice things, right? A normal DH build process goes in a very, very simplified way. Like, imagine like you have DH clean, and then DH build, and then afterwards DH strip, and then whatever. So I'm going to talk about DH build and DH strip here. Okay, DH auto build will use GCC's file prefix map, which is an option you pass to the compiler when you're compiling things, to remap the build directory path to dot. That's part of the package build flags. So any package that obeys and respects the package build flags will have this flag added to their compilation flags. And what did I do? Oh my God. Why is it going backward? Oh, no. Oh, something, okay, let me, I knew it was gonna, okay. Where is it? Really? Maybe. Okay, let me try to... Thank you. Can you guys still read it like this, or is it too small? Okay. Sorry, it's just a slide. Okay. So this is the usage of f-file prefix map came from the reproducible builds project, and it is necessary because sbuild builds things in a non-deterministic build directory, right? So you can check yourself, like if you build locally, sbuild will output its log, and you're going to see like it's /build/package name dash whatever. And by using f-file prefix map, we make sure that this path, which is non-deterministic, becomes dot. So every debug symbol we generate now has this path, dot, encoded in it. Or every debug symbol that's generated from a build that supports the package build flags and D8, of course. There is a specific dwarf. This is the name of a dwarf entity. I forgot the right term for it, but like it's just a field in the dwarf information. Dwarf is the specification on how the debug symbols should be written in a file. Okay, so that's how GCC and GDB can communicate, and like GCC generates a debug symbol or debug info, which is written in dwarf spec, and GDB reads that dwarf information and can understand. So one of the fields we have is debuginfod.d.n, which is spread across the debug info. And this symbol, although it says compdir, it's actually like the build directory. So it's our equivalent of sbuild's build directory. And this field here is what contains the dot. And then dh-strip comes, and it is responsible for splitting the binary and its debug symbols. So when you compile something in Debian, so dh auto build will just generate a binary, and the binary will have like the debug symbols inside it. So we run dh-strip in order to make sure that like there's a binary package now, and there's a dbgsim package now, and they are correlated, but they're separated. Something else that dh-strip does is compress the debug symbols. Okay, that's important. Now, okay, let me go back to the dwarf spec, which the latest version of the dwarf spec is version 5. It is not entirely clear on whether DWAT comptir should contain a full path. Remember, in our case, it contains dot. Okay, so that's the way other distros, especially Fedora-based distros, they do it. They just use full paths in that field, and which means that we might be going against the spec in this case. We might be breaking the spec in this case. And I know that V6, which is coming up in maybe next year or something, will discourage the use of relative paths in this field. So by then, like we'll really be like going against what the spec recommends us to do. And well, because of reproducible builds, we choose to use dot. So what can we do about it? Debuginfod expects paths to be full in this field when it indexes everything. And so that's the main reason why in Debian we can't and don't have source code indexing. Because every debug info we have in Debian is either a dot, because the package uses the package build flags and that gets replaced by a dot, or it contains that non-deterministic path from sbuild or from whatever. And that's a mess, and debuginfod doesn't know what to do with it. So we don't index anything. What's the full path? It's starting with a slash. Okay, yeah. So it's a let's look at how other distros deal with this problem. Okay, so Fedora doesn't use a file prefix map. Thanks. But it has very stable build paths. So you can actually reference the build path during build time with RPM build root. We can too, by the way, but anyway. The way they do it is RPM, they always replace RPM build root by a deterministic path. And how do they do it? They use a tool called debug edit. Debug edit basically rewrites RPM build root into, in their case, /user, debug, source, package name, and then whatever. They don't have like the concept of source starballs. They have SRPMs, source RPMs. But it's for this presentation, let's call it source starball. And they're packaged under the same directory. So they make sure that if you explode an SRPM or if you install an SRPM into your system, it will get installed inside user debug source, blah, blah, blah. That means that in Fedora land, there's no equivalent to apt source run by a user. You can only install source code from packages running as root. So that's a trade-off that they chose, and that's always been this way. So they never had to break anything because it's always been this way. But it makes like the perfect scenario for debuginfod because the paths are always deterministic, and that's why they have complete support for this feature. Now, how did I do it in Ubuntu? Like Ubuntu is Debian. In many ways it's Debian. In this way, it's also Debian because Ubuntu also uses file prefix map to do exactly the same rewrite that I mentioned in putting dots there. But there's another flag that you can pass to CC, which is the fdebug prefix map. And that flag, like, if you pass it after file prefix map, that flag only touches dwarf. So file prefix map is used for other things, but fdebug prefix map is only used for dwarf. So I pass fdebug prefix map after file prefix map. And in the same way that like file prefix map is always added when a program uses, when a package uses the package build flag, now fdebug prefix map will too. And I specifically rewrite the build dir, and that's why I said like we can now also access the build directory during build time. It's not only Fedora that can do it. So I rewrite the build dir to, in my case, I chose /user /source package name -Ubuntu version. So Ubuntu version is like the full package version, not only the upstream version of the package. And that's because in Ubuntu, I repack the source starball inside the debuginfod server. So I'm not proposing or I'm not repacking the source starball after every build to make sure that it will install inside /user source, blah, 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 because I want to keep the ability for users to do an apt install and have the source starball installed in their home directories, which is what they can do now. But that means that the debuginfod server in Ubuntu has a little bit more work to do because it repacks everything. And it repacks to adjust the path and to apply patches. And the part about applying patches is the reason why I chose to use the full Ubuntu version in the package, in the path name, instead of only the upstream version. Because I have like, for example, for snack, like I have snack 1.0-1, 1.0-2, 1.0-3. That's a lot of space for that, of storage that I need for that. But that pays out, I think, because I have all of the patches, and if any patch changes from one Ubuntu version to another, I can still serve the source code specifically for that version. And it's not going to be like a generic source code for snack 1.0. So how could we do it? Like we could do it like Ubuntu, like I did in Ubuntu, and use file or fdebug prefix map. But I'd like to propose to use debug edit. And I'd like us to have a new DH command that will run before DH strip. And that well, because debug edit doesn't support compressed debug symbols. So if you remember, dh-strip compresses the bug symbol, so I have to run it before. And my idea is to rewrite the WAT compter, just like Fedora does it, but using debug edit in our case, and then use maybe the same path format that I use in Ubuntu or whatever else, like Fedora does, like user debug source, whatever, that works too. And I'm proposing to not repack the source tarball because of that ability that I'd like to keep for users to install to apt source a package. As I said before, that means that debuginfod on the server side will have more work because it will have to repack everything and keep many versions of a source package unpacked. Or no, actually, they don't need to be unpacked in the server. The debuginfod server is smart enough to it just indexes all of the tarballs, and you don't have to keep them unpacked. It knows where the tarball is, and it will unpack them as needed. Pros and cons about doing this. Pros about going the debug edit way instead of just using the fdebug prefix map as I do in Ubuntu. Debug edit, I think, is a more broad, it's a broader solution in the sense that even if a package doesn't respect the package build flags, which happens a lot, but if a package still uses DH to build, then it will benefit from this. Yeah, exactly. If upstream, for some reason, doesn't respect build flags, C flags, CXX flags, whatever, there is, I think Samuel even mentioned that in his presentation before, but there is a specific pass in the Salsa CI to detect these cases. But if we still have those packages in the archive and they use DH, they will benefit from this because no build flag is needed in this case. And it's easier to disable. Right now, like in Ubuntu, you have to export that. Well, I don't remember right now. I have to check the docs. But you have to export a variable and you have to pass a specific flag for it, mate options, whatever. In this case, you just have to override DH, debug edit, and don't have anything there. And using the fdebug prefix map for this problem is frowned upon. I still have contact with many upstream developers, of course, and last year I was attending a toolchain conference, and I talked at length with one of my friends about this. He's actually the guy who wrote debug edit and maintains it, and he was like, "Oh, so you're using fdebug prefix map in Ubuntu?" Just okay. I mean, that works, but he was not very, very happy with it. So I think debug edit is the way to go in this case, because upstream it's upstream sanctioned, so to speak. Cons, regular dbgsim packages would be harder to use because, if you install a regular dbgsim package and you expect it to find, you expect GDB to find the source code in your home directory, for example, if you apt source package, you will now have to adjust the path inside GDB with dir or set substitute path or whatever method you use. Because GDB will not know where to find the source package. Because if you remember, there's going to be a difference between, dbgsim will say, hey, the source code is under /user/source/package name, blah, blah, blah. But there's going to be nothing there. So you have to adjust the path manually. But my counter argument is that already happens. My experience with using GDB with GDBsim packages, or dbgsim packages, is horrible. So I always have to adjust the source code because it never is where GDB expects it to be. There's a dependency on an external tool. I mean, some people might raised that point, but I personally don't think that's a problem. And is there anything else? Like, of course, I don't want to impact reproducible builds. Holger is here. I like him. I don't want him to like just not, go away. And anyway, I want things to still work for them, of course. My intention here is not to impact, but I think this will not impact anything because like the paths are going to be stable. If you rebuild the package in the same version, it's going to be always the same path. And of course, if you rebuild another version, it's going to be another path, but then that happens. And I think the debug edit shouldn't cause build failure, of course. If for whatever reason, the tool can't process the debug info, it will just fail gracefully and just the build will go on and just paths will be wrong, but it's okay. Like we're talking about debug here, so I realize that like it's only applicable in like 1% of cases. So yeah. And what else? Like, is there anything that you think or maybe consider that may be a problem in this case? And I would very much like to hear. If not right now, of course, I'll be here in the event for the whole week or what's left of it. And if you want to get in touch, these are my contacts. And if you want to learn more about debuginfod.d, I maintain a wiki page and Debian, and there's the upstream website where you can find more information about it. But I think that's pretty much it. So if you have any feedback, I would love to hear because I plan to go forward with it as soon as I get back home, and yeah, there it goes. Yeah.
So just I need to get you the microphone.
So in order to find out which packages you're coming into, are you like looking at the DLL, the link table, or like how are you determining like if it's, I don't know, 0.0, 0.8, 0.5 versus 0.5, 0.1 or whatever?
You mean package version?
Yeah.
Yeah, through the build ID.
Oh, so you're doing through the build ID?
Yeah, because the build IDs are going to be different between builds, and so like 1.0-1, it's going to have a different build ID than 1.0-2.
So this is presuming that you're only using things from apps. So if I'm building things on my own, then perhaps it's not gonna go fly.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
we're at DebConf, so we can't boil the ocean, and yeah, I mean in that specific case we would have like people with third-party packages would have problems if they don't follow this specifically path format that I'm proposing.
I'm just wondering how much magic you have in there. So.
I'm sorry?
I was just wondering how magical it's going to be. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's only so much we can do, but I think as long as we publish this and just make sure that people are aware of this requirement for debugging, for GDB and debuginfod to play together, then it should be fine. Yeah.
Thank you for working on this. This sounds great.
Yeah.
So I have two questions. So one is just to confirm, today, if I wanted to use this in Debian, I would need to apt source, but it would not need to install the debuginfod package. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Second, there's a really annoying way in which the debuginfod packages fail today, and I'm wondering if you have some magic that might solve it. So if you have something like Swig, where a package contains some spec, and when you build the package, it generates a bunch of source and then builds that source, then that source that was generated doesn't actually end up in the source package because it was not in the source.
Yeah.
So it does not work. So any thoughts about that?
Yeah, that's automatically generated source code during build time is like it's always tricky because I mean it is possible to still, I think. No, actually, I mean, it's not possible to amend the tarball, the source tarball, because you rely on its signature to, do a proper build. For example, what GDB does, the GDB package, we have a GDB source package, which mimics the SRPM, and that GDB source is like the source. All of the source files in the build directory that were like even the automatically generated ones, they're shipped in that package. But that's a hack, and that doesn't work with debuginfod. So I don't have an easy answer to that, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, so going further with what he asked, I was thinking on the case of derived distributions.
Yeah.
I mean, Ubuntu is a very special case because it's the largest derived
Yeah.
distribution, but many will not compile the whole thing.
Yeah.
Do you think it would be possible, for example, to have the environment variable be an array of possible servers that could serve either my preferred distribution, and if the symbols are not there, go on and find them in the Debian debuginfod server?
Right now, you can specify as many servers as you want in that variable.
Okay, so it
Yeah,
will already
it
be.
works, yeah.
Okay,
What
great.
the derivative distros can do is they can configure their debuginfod servers to also query the others as a
To be recursive.
with the federation thing that I mentioned. So the users only have to worry about one server, and that's it.
To satisfy sort of the three needs, like the root user for where source is, the reproducible builds, as well as the user builds.
Yeah.
Is there a way we could look at like a namespace or a slice or something where you could take advantage of an area that would, some sort of overlay that would allow that to all three cases to be harmonious?
That would be great. Yes, I haven't really investigated that idea deeply, but I thought about like not namespaces per se, but other techniques that can, just a regular user could still install a package that installs under /user source or whatever. I mean, for now, if I can get the regular source code indexing done, I'll be very happy, and then I think we can tackle these other problems like as separate projects. But yes, that is a good idea. I haven't really thought about implementing those in that way, but yeah, it's a great idea.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Two questions. How is the workload on your debuginfod servers?
It depends.
So is one server enough at some point, or do you need more debuginfod servers?
One server is generally enough, yes. If it's a beefy server, like the Ubuntu one is beefier than what we have in Debian, but then again, it gets hammered more often than Debian's. The thing about debug info is that, like, we usually, because it's called debug info, people tend to think, oh, it's only used for debug. But as you know, of course, it's not only used for debug. So there are many tools, online tools for profiling, for example, that use both Ubuntu's and Debian's debug info servers to fetch debug info. Because in profiling, like after you profile stuff, and then you have the flame graph and everything, and you wanna know like specifically, like, oh yeah, which function wasted more time, more CPU time. You wanna know the name of a function, and to know the name of a function, you need debug info. So yeah, the server we have today for Debian is enough-ish. I would like more storage. That's always the bottleneck. But other than that, it should hold for a few more years.
Okay. Second question, what about packages which get their sources from binary source packages? How do you index them?
What do you mean? Sorry, just...
So you have some source packages which build binary source packages.
Yeah.
So they store tarbars in USR SRC. And these are used to build other packages which need the sources.
Yeah, that is basically the same problem of having automatically generated code during build time and then what to do with it and how to index it. There is no, for now, there's no easy solution. I haven't envisioned something that works in that case yet. I'm open to suggestions, but I don't know how to solve the problem.
Okay, so third question.
Yeah, sure.
So most packages are now converted to debug symbol packages, but there are still some packages which build explicit DB packages.
Yes.
So is it, and mostly that's because you need those as build dependencies or as auto package test dependencies. So do you think you will be you can replace those packages and enable the debuginfod for a package build?
That would be amazing. Yes. First, yes, these packages exist. -dbg. They are indexed by debuginfod, by the way, and they will benefit from this solution as well. So that's okay. If I can envision a way to have debuginfod, yes, I can. I mean, just thinking here now, yes, I can. I would have to check what exactly are the specific demands of those packages that use the DBG in their build depends, but I think it can be done. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the talk and thanks for thinking about reproducible builds. I wonder what you propose, as I understand it, is to modify all packages and then they need rebuild. While this wasn't the case for Ubuntu, why Debian cannot use the Ubuntu solution, and also for reproducible build or the build path. Like there was also suggestion to use the deterministic build path.
Yes.
For Debian, like because we don't need to build in a random path anymore.
Yeah.
Like we record the path anyway, but it could also be a deterministic path.
And a lot of packages are using like /tmp /reproducible build /package name, right? I've noticed that in some debugging infos that
I think they're all still built in /build. That's what sbuild is doing.
Okay, so maybe.
But I think it should be user source package name version as well.
Yes. If we use a deterministic build path, then yes, that whole debug edit thing I think would not be necessary because we don't touch source variables. If we did, then that would still be necessary like Fedora does.
There are existing bugs against build for that.
I know, but
maybe it's worth getting those fixed.
Yes, absolutely. The question about using the, Ubuntu or Ubuntu's packages or debug info, it doesn't work because Ubuntu carries a lot of patches on top of the Debian packages, and that changes build IDs and.
No, not but using the same solution. But Ubuntu uses the fdebug prefix path or whatever it's called. And Debian doesn't do that, so Debian could also use that.
Yes, exactly. My opinion is that like using debug edit is more robust because of packages that don't respect the package build flags or don't respect C flags or CXS flags or whatever. So for those packages, using fdebug prefix map in the package build flags will not work, but using debug edit will always work. Yeah. Okay, I have to talk to you later about this, the other idea about fixing the deterministic build path. Yes, like to discuss that. Yeah, thank you. Okay, sorry.
So let's thank Sergio for his talk, and you can catch up later.
Thank you. Kamsahamnida.